Welcome back to Potions and Processing. I am your host, Raven White. I washed my hair early this morning, and attempted to blow dry it as I usually do, and it is still wet. If you also have thick curly hair, then you know my plight. So I apologize. I'm looking a little bit like a wet rat today, but we're just going to have to deal with it because it just is how it is, and I ran out of stamina a long time ago. Anyway, moving on. This is your friendly reminder that we are talking about some very heavy subjects going forward, and I'm going to put them here on the screen for you with some little screen magic, and you can regroup, take some breathing space, whatever you need throughout. But let's get into it. In the last video, we started talking about how I was forced to build my own cage and then live in it. And I want to back up a little bit, and I want to talk about why the cage existed. And I feel it's really important as to the context of why it was built. Now, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this over the last week, how I want to approach it, how I want to dissect it, how I want to talk about it. And there's really no easy way to go about it because there's a lot of things that were all mixed up together during this time. There was a lot of things happening during this time, and I don't necessarily want to talk about it all in one go. During this time, I was transitioning into going to not public school, but private school for the first time because I had been homeschooled up until 4th grade. And then I went to a private Christian school for 4th and 5th grade. And this is a key important part of my lore. And in between 4th and 5th grade is when the cage started to be built and when we really started getting into this cult. In 5th grade is when I was transitioned into the cage and into the head coverings and modest attire. So all of this was happening around the same time. But the cage existed in between, which is really important. And it's what I base a lot of my memories off of, to be honest, is pre and post cage. I have been working on like a little diagram to give you guys an idea of the size proportions of it and what I was kind of living in and what I had with me during this time. But today I want to talk about explicitly why that cage was built and then what I was told and what I think actually was the reason. So in the last video, I talked about how one night I woke up to go to the bathroom and my stepfather heard me. He came up, he accused me of going into my brother's bedroom and touching them inappropriately. I had no idea what he was talking about. And then the next morning I woke up, my bedroom had been tied shut, like my bedroom door had been tied shut somehow with twine. And then after that, for a couple of days after that, my bedroom was tied shut again to keep me from leaving. And during that time was when my bedroom was getting sectioned off and getting ready for this transition into having this wall built. And during this whole time, I was being severely punished and questioned and put into, like, cut off from the family, being demonized and being told, oh, you did this, you are a predator, you're molesting your brothers, you're molesting your siblings, you are doing all of these things and you need to admit to it. So I want to back up a little bit now from this and remind everybody that during this time, the only person that I'm aware of that was being molested in that house was me. My memory is very dicey. It comes and goes. I have very significant memories of very specific times that are so detailed and so unfortunate that I am hesitant to want to recall any of the ones that I don't remember. But through years of therapy and healing, my memory has begun to return to me. And through this process, I have learned that it wasn't an isolated event as I thought it had been. It was over a period of time. And that makes a lot more sense to me because when I was younger, I remember waking up during the night and my stepfather being in bed with me. He would start out like just being on top of the covers, just laying on top of the covers, which seems innocent, I guess, enough when you're a kid. You wake up and your dad's laying in bed next to you, like, oh, like he would say things like, oh, I thought you were having a bad dream or something like that. And then I would wake up and he would be under the covers. You know, he'd be under the covers next to me. And then I'd wake up and he would be underneath me. And then from there, I think that you can surmise what continued to happen from that point forward. Now, the youngest that I remember this happening was from around the ages of like 6-ish, and then going forward. And about the time that I hit puberty, about the time that I started getting my period, and I believe that I got my period sooner than most children would get their period, he became very weirdly obsessed with seeing it and seeing that I was changing my underwear and changing my pads. And I'd also started to hide my underwear at this time. And I became like very like just embarrassed about everything that was happening down there. And I became very dissociated from my body. And I was very shamed for it too when my mom found like when I was hiding my underwear and hiding my clothes and hiding all of that, which should have been a really big red flag, honestly. But that's something for another time. I think, here's what I think happened now that we have all of this data. I think something happened and he got worried that he was about to get caught or something slipped or he lost control of the situation or maybe I said something suggestive. I don't know. I think he was worried he was going to get caught. And the best way I think to invalidate a victim is to make them out to be a liar. Invalidate the victim in anything that they're going to say. Make it so that you can't trust them. Make it so that no matter what they say, you can't trust anything that they would have to, share. Make the victim the predator. And as I said, he was already very, very obsessed with demonic possession, with demonic control, with demonic presence. And that was real. That was not put on. That was something he was very invested in. And I think in his own twisted mind, he somehow justified what he was doing, or maybe he somehow put it on to me that it was my fault that he was doing what he was doing, that maybe there was a demon or a devil in me somehow. I don't really know, but I know that that corresponded to what was happening because part of my quarantine was to exorcise some kind of demon in me. Now, this bit of information I didn't find out until years later, until years after the fact, when I got into an argument with my mother over it. And she told me that I should have thanked her because she saved me from him calling out someone from the cult church to come and exorcise me because that's what he really wanted to do. He wanted to call some of the exorcisers from that church out to come and get the demon out of me. And she said no. She put her foot down about that, not to locking me in the cage and doing all of the other activities that he did while I was in there, but that she saved me from that activity. So thanks, Mom, for that. But I really think that he saw this as an opportunity to cover up and hide this activity that he was doing. Because after this, the molestation and the rape stopped for a while. It stopped until after I turned 18. Now, the cage stuff, that went on for a while. And we're going to talk more in the following videos about the size of the room, what I was allowed to have in the room, the privileges that I could earn and that could be taken away, and how long I lived in it. And there was a lot that happened in that tiny little space. And the more that I think about it and reflect on it, it is quite harrowing. And I was just a child. Like, I was just, I was like 9, 10 when this really all started to come to fruition. So much of these things I've had to compartmentalize and put away until I could come to a place where I could deal with it. And I know when I talk about it, I have a lot of anger that comes out across the camera, and I hope that it's not too much. And I hope I handle it with grace and with dignity while I talk about it. But I also want to be authentic when I talk about it, because it is so hard to talk about it. These are things that are just, when I speak on it, it's almost like there's just no way. How could these things happen, and for such a long time? I lived in that house till I was 19. So for the whole first part of my life. And people came in and out of that house. And it just continued to happen. And you think, oh, things like this can't possibly happen, but it does. And I still see it happening. Maybe not to that extreme. Gosh, I hope not. But I see the warning signs of it happening still to this day. People using religious rhetoric to cover up. And at some point, you have to be willing to draw the line, and you have to be willing to say enough is enough. When is data enough to have over dogma? I have the utmost respect for faith and for religion when it is used the way that it was intended to, when it is used to nurture and to uplift and to love and create community, to rebuild after devastation. And just in the other hand, right across the way, is used to manipulate, to control, to dominate. And so many people look the other way because it is their faith, and they hold it so close to their heart that they're not willing to acknowledge when it becomes too dangerous. The first day that I was locked in that cage, in that space, I won't ever forget it. I walked in there. I had no bed. I had no clothes. They had taken everything. I had one window that was screwed shut, so I couldn't even open it, and it was the summertime. My closet was padlocked shut, so I did not have access to my clothes. I did not have a bed. I did not have any toys, no books. I did not have a light. I had a tiny strip of carpet, and that's what I went to sleep on. And they gave me a sheet to put on top of myself. I didn't even have a pillow. I wasn't allowed to eat with the family. They served me my meals back there, and I ate on the floor like a dog. In fact, I'm pretty sure that the first meal they gave me was bread and water, because I literally was a prisoner. And any time that I acted up bad, my stepfather thought it was funny to just feed me bread and water. I had nothing. And I watched them close that door and lock it. And when the sun set, I was in complete darkness, and I was afraid of the dark. And that was the beginning of my life in the cage. And it was only about to get so much worse. This has been this episode of Potions and Processing. And I appreciate you all for sitting with me and listening to it. Each time I make these episodes, I think, oh, it's going to be easier to get through. That has yet to be proven correct. Oh, but it's really, really important to me that my story is out here on this platform. It doesn't really matter to me, honestly, how many views I get or how many followers that I have or if it ever becomes really big, because I just want a record of it. I just want it out here because my abusers are still out here and they are just going to live the rest of their lives. And I just really want it known that what they did will be known to the public in some way, shape, or form. So every time someone watches, it means a lot to me because it means just one more person knows. So thank you a lot. Big deep breaths for everybody. Remember, we may be different species, but we're all part of the same family. So be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and I will see you next week.